agricultural industries. I think a presentation by my colleague Mr. Suraj Vaidya following this presentation will give more details, information and facts about the projects that we have identified under each of these sectors. That said, if you or any investor have brighter thinking and ideas, the government of Nepal will remain open to accept your investment proposal in sectors that I did not mention just now. The windows to the world. Earlier I mentioned about domestic market of nearly 30 million population of Nepal. Later, probably I will show you nearby 3 big markets with a combined population of more than 2 billion. Being a member of regional forums, for example, the SAARC and the BIMSTEC, and member of MIGA, the World Trade Organization and other markets for Nepalese production goes beyond our borders, our neighbors. There is a global market. In some areas, we will have markets for overproduction of goods and services. In others, in all areas, we will definitely have market for our smart production. We have business and investment promotion agreement concluded with 6 countries. Also, double taxation avoidance agreement with 11 countries, the latest being our DTA with neighboring Bangladesh. We are processing for DTAA with few other countries. Not only we have stability, we are committed to be a middle income country by 2030. The sustainable development goals also to be achieved by then. We have 62% or nearly 18 million working aged, 15 to 54 years population. 35 or 6.3 million population, 15 to 29 years, is a clear demographic dividend available at least for the next 25 to 30 years. As indicated earlier, there are 3 big markets at the doorstep. Nepal's unique geography and biodiversity provides not only a comfortable living but also provides more opportunity to invest in unique products, the smart goods and services. Nepal probably is the only country in the world where most part of the country needs no air conditioner, neither for heating nor for cooling. The time zone Nepal is located also gives special advantage for investment and business, especially in the service sector. Business in Nepal can grow on and benefit when nearly more than half of the world remains sleeping or maybe dreaming and just thinking. In the days ahead, with a renewed commitment for a prosperous Nepal and a happy Nepali, we plan to increase the number of bilateral investment agreements with more countries. Intellectual Property Right Act is being formulated. Public procurement acts and regulations are being amended to further facilitate and promote public-private partnership. A new 15th five-year plan soon to be implemented along with long-term strategy 2100 encourages public-private partnership and emphasizes the role of private sector and foreign investment. Policies and program of the government for the next fiscal year starting this July will be consistent to 15th five-year plan and long-term development strategy 2100. The upcoming budget will not only be consistent with government's commitment, it will ensure all commitment of the government to be truly and really translated into action. At the end, Please, I would like to request all of you, especially the delegates coming from away, please come and invest in Nepal. With this, Mr. Chairman, I need to stop here, and I once again thank you all for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gimire, for your eloquent, informative, and comprehensive presentation. Your presentation has made us clear and updated about the existing legislative and structural situation for the investment in Nepal. You have highlighted how friendly and flexible are our constitutional and legislative provisions are for investment, how we are making substantive progress in policy reforms, in structural reforms. You have highlighted what are our priority areas, and you also have highlighted how the domestic, neighboring, regional and global market are opening new vistas for the prosperity and development of Nepal. And just one thing is required, that is the broader collaboration, broader partnership of our friendly nations, institutions, business community in home and in abroad. Having said that, now I would like to shift to our next presenter. Now I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Suraj Vaidya, Chairman of Vaidya's Organization of Industries and Trading House. He previously served as the President of Federation of Nepali Chambers of Commerce and Industries, and also as the President of SAARC Chambers of Commerce and Industries. He will shed light on the promising projects that have high potentiality of returns for investors. Based on his long experience in Nepali commerce and industries, he will describe priority projects where profitability is alluring. It will certainly be beneficial to you all to hear from someone who has tested the water and knows the currents. May I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Suraj Vaidya. Now, floor is yours.
Honorable Minister, Honorable former Ministers, Honorable Chief Ministers, Honorable Secretaries, high delegates from the government of Nepal, foreign delegates, and my Nepalese business community. It's an honor to be here today, especially because I am the first private sector from Nepal speaking on this forum. You've heard a lot of talk. We've walked the talk. And from that point of view, I think what's been presented here today has tremendous of work that's gone into it. And I need to say, before I start, I need to commend the Right Honorable Prime Minister for his personal dedication in making sure that this investment summit is not just an event. It is something that we bring investment into this country, create jobs. So that's something that we private sector would like to acknowledge. I'd also like to acknowledge the day in, day out effort by the Finance Minister himself, who headed the committee in creating this with the investment board and the private sector in this. So from that point of view, I truly believe that the government of Nepal is extremely serious on not looking at this as an event, but something that's beyond an event. I also want to thank the government of Nepal, truly, because the Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry, CNI, Nepal Chamber, and a whole lot of private sector were involved in this. And probably this session goes to show the spirit of private-public partnership. You've just heard the Finance Secretary make a presentation on policies, and here I am from the private sector talking about the opportunities that exist in investing in Nepal. So from that point of view, I'd like to really thank everybody, especially the people who've been behind the shows, really working day out, day in to make this successful. Because when we started this, there were pessimism. There were people who said, maybe this is not going to go forth. Nepal isn't ready for this investment. But I think it's proven wrong in many ways. Today we have with us 40 countries, 39 countries to be specific, over 600 foreign delegates, and a large portion of Nepalese business community up here. So that shows that we are on the right track and we're moving on. Nepal, oh, this moves very fast. Well, okay. Nepal is a mountain of opportunities. IT technology sometimes moves very quick, so we need to keep pace with that. Nepal is a mountain of opportunities, truly, in every sense. It's not that we have Mount Everest in Nepal, that just signifies the potential we have in Nepal. So if you're willing to take the risk, you're willing to move ahead and invest, Nepal offers you that opportunity to invest in Nepal. Nepal has been moving on. The last investment summit, this is the second edition. The first one was held in 2017. Nepal is the youngest democratic republic in the world today. And that's in a very short time we've achieved that. A lot of us in Nepal don't appreciate that, but if you really look at how the world has moved forward, Nepal achieved that in a pretty peaceful manner and a pretty rapid manner. Some of the projects that IBN has been involved from 2017, which was the first investment summit, is Arun 3 is actually now in construction and moving forward. Wangsi Cement, which is $160 million plus, has started their construction. Approval of $200 million solar project for Dolma Fund has been approved. The Japan Club International has already been given the approval to set up 3 5-star hotels, namely in Kathmandu, Bhaktapur, and Pokhara. Muktinath cable probably is going to be the longest cable in the world, which is 84 kilometers by any nature, by any imagination. It's really something that private sector is looking at, has been given the DPR to start the study on that. So what that really says is there is a sense of movement here. You know, a lot of people say, is business happening in Nepal? And I say it is. And as business people, you and me, we're more realistic in our approach because everything we do is on a 5 years cash flow planning. If we were to expect this new government to have set all rules set for us, that was probably we were being a dreamer. This government needs to fix the provincial rules. They need to fix the local rules. There needs to be a lot of amendments that comes in. In spite of that, in 1 year's time, I would say, commended to the government that we've achieved quite a bit since then. You and I, in business, look at profits. Words are important, but profits, balance sheets, is what's important. And the fact is the rate on returns on investment is truly high. I just want to take 2 companies, Encell and Unilever. And there are many more like these companies. ITC is here, Dabur is here, many companies who've made tremendous gain. The average return on investment would be about 6%. We're looking at 12 to 15. Some of them are giving dividends of 600 to 700%. And that's something that's unheard of. So from that point of view, I think the return on your investment, provided you take the risk, because these investments came in about 15 to 20 years ago. They took the initial step, they've gained the benefit. So probably Nepal, once again, opens itself up to investors to look at Nepal as an investment destination. Nepal's economy hasn't done too bad in spite of what's happening all around us. I mean, 6% growth is a respectable growth in the country. And this is amazing. We've had 3 elections. And there was not just election, there was massive turnout, 70% plus. But what was amazing in this election was every political party, from the smallest village to the municipalities, to the provincial, to the central election, the election was fought on economic agenda. So that gives me the belief that the politicians are serious about taking economy forward. And that's something that we need to look at. And lastly, in 2017, when we had the investment summit, if you please go back and you see that, the biggest concern of the investors was, will Nepal have a stable government? The people of Nepal has given a 2/3 majority government, and we know that there's tremendous potential for this government to deliver what it has promised to the people of Nepal, and that's economic growth. I want to focus on some of the projects that we've been highlighting, some of the important issues. It's on the website, it's in your kit. There are about 77 projects that have come forward to you, and they focus mainly on 7 areas. When these projects were looked upon, what is very interesting from 2017 to now is a lot of consultation took place, not just in Kathmandu, but in all 7 provinces, with all private sector. So from that point of view, the projects that are being presented to you, these are some of them, have the potential to move forward. Agriculture is an important part. Nepal is roughly about 147,000 square kilometers, occupies 0.3% of Asia, and if you look at the world mass, it only occupies only 0.03% of the world mass, all right? Now that's a very tiny country. But if you look at the potential of the agriculture, what we say is from 70,000 meters to Mount Everest is what we have here in a very short span. If you are involved in agriculture, you know that climate plays a major role in the agriculture growth. So in other words, you've got every kind of climate available in Nepal, which you can invest in, all right? So there's a tremendous potential on that. The country has diverse climate, which I've just said. Another reason I think agriculture has tremendous potential in Nepal is last year we had a record import of 2 billion rupees, which means there is a demand for agriculture in Nepal, and therefore there is tremendous opportunity for investment in agriculture in Nepal. And I say this often, Nepal needs to look at an agriculture country not as something that produces volume, but really looks at a niche market. China, Tibet, is the average altitude is about 3,000 meters. They've got about 12 million tourists coming to that place every year. They bring in most of their food from beyond Tibet. Nepal, which is just next door, has potential to export these niche market. India, we have a border that's open. We've got a tremendous open policy with India. That's another market we can look at. Middle East. Do you know that most of the flights that come into Nepal are full of goods, so therefore the undercarriage is full of baggage that comes along. But the flights that take off from Nepal are mostly migrant workers, which means what? The undercarriage is empty. If we negotiate with the airlines, we could get a very good rate on flying high-value products, floriculture, high-value products, potential to export from Nepal to Middle East. So these are just some of the areas that we have. The projects that exist that has come up to you, and you have on your website, is a chemical fertilizer plant. Now, this has been talked about for a long, long time. But really, this is desperately important for Nepal because Nepal productivity is low, is because we use the least amount of fertilizer per acre in whole of South Asia. Just imagine the potential that you would have if you set up this industry and the productivity of Nepalese agriculture would improve. The other area that's been put in is in all 7 provinces. In all 7 provinces, they're looking at agriculture as a major role of improving the livelihood of the people. So therefore, in agriculture, there's tremendous potential, and I think it's something seriously to look at. Tourism. After the earthquake, Nepal took a terrible hit with our national monuments, our heritage sites being destroyed. But this is figures to prove that Nepal is moving forward. In 2015 to 2016, the tourism growth was close to about 40%. Ever since, the growth till last year has gone up by 20% plus. Now that's amazing for any country. In spite of all the problems that we've had, our tourism is on the rise. So from that point of view, I think we have this potential. I don't need to say much on this. 8 out of 14 mountains that are over 8,000 meters are in Nepal. We've got tremendously rich heritage and culture. This is the birthplace of Buddha, the origin of wellness and yoga. Let me just sort of spend 2 minutes on this. The Ramayana, for Hindus up here, the Ramayana was actually scripted in Nepal. We don't know much about this. Ram and Lakshman's education was in Devghat, in Chitwan. If we stick on to that story, Love Kush with Sita came here to Nepal. So from a religious point of view, there's tremendous amount of things that we can do. but it's the will to create new tourism product, and therefore we're looking at these areas as tremendous potential. You talk about yoga. Shivaji is known as the god of yoga. That's Himalayas, and Himalayas 60% plus lies in Nepal. We've lost that out. So we need to go back to being Nepali and looking at what Nepal has to move forward. We have the deepest gorge in the world. The deepest point is about 6 kilometers. That's huge. So from that point of view, there's another potential for tourism. Nepal's forest coverage is over 40%, something that a lot of people would envy. 40% of forest coverage. Multiple ethnic group speaking 100 different languages. Like I said, 0.003% of the world's mass, and you've got 100 different dialects spoken in Nepal with so many different ethnic groups in Nepal. And the most what I would say is, during the conflict, many of our Nepalese people went abroad because they couldn't find jobs in Nepal because of the situation then. But that has turned into an advantage for tourism, because most of these young people that left Nepal work in hospitality industries, tourism industries. They're coming back. So what we're going to have is skilled workers coming back to Nepal, and therefore we got this potential to move tourism up. So some of the projects that have been forwarded here is the movie center. You know, I mean, we've talked about this. You know, in Spain, when this Hollywood movie was made, I mean, most of the Indian tourists went to Spain. I mean, movies are great ways of promoting tourism, and Nepal has abundant potential of having the most beautiful destinations for that. So therefore, there's a project of $25 million. The government has already seen the site, and they're looking at about 114 acres to get investors into this. The Janaki temple, recently Modiji's visit has made some of the very important Hindu destinations very, very important. When we had the recent festival in Janakpur, one of the biggest problems was we didn't have enough hotels. So therefore, here lies another project that has tremendous potential. And the government has sort of put this up at about $20 million and looking for investors in that area. Ski resorts in Manang. I mean, you know, most of the mountains in Nepal were not reachable by road, but with the kind of infrastructure that's coming in the roads, the mountains are being more accessible, and probably this is another sector that we can look at is skiing in Nepal. Kaptad, I mean, if you really go to far west in Nepal, it's one of the most beautiful sites that you can see. You talk about Switzerland, I know we have some friends from here, don't mind, but this place is even better. It's amazing, it's untouched, it's green. There are 3 cable car projects from the private sector that's being promoted for the investment summit. So tourism has tremendous potential. You know the biggest thing about Nepal? It's not the Mount Everest or Lord Buddha. Because when a quick survey was made by NTB and people in tourism, most people remember Nepal, when they leave Nepal, the Nepali people. And I think that's our greatest asset, and we need to work on that. The people of Nepal are meant to be friendly, and we smile. A lot has been spoken about hydropower. I'm not going to go there. There's tremendous potential, but for some of you, I mean, you know, when people say, what's the next war going to be on? It's going to be on water. Water is going to be extremely important. Forget the war. The climate change. The climate change is going to affect water in many ways. 70% of the wet season water that flows to Ganges is from the province of Nepal, from the hills of Nepal. 40% in the dry season flows in from Nepal. So can you imagine the water that's going in, if we could harness that water, not just for power, but you manage that water well. So it's a tremendous resource. It's very, very important that we look at water, not just in terms of energy, but in terms of what it does to agriculture, to livelihood, to everybody else. Because you can do without fuel, but you can't do without water. And that's what Nepal has plenty of. Nepal's need for energy is growing on a daily basis. You know, and the thing is, Nepal imports about $1.3 billion worth of fuel. Now just imagine Nepal with the potentials of energy that we have. We converted our subsidized area of household goods. Instead of importing gas, which is of, you know, kerosene of 1,700 kiloliter per month, 32,500 tons of cooking gas monthly. Can you imagine if energy was used to light these houses up? So therefore, in Nepal, we talk about exports of energy. No, I think if we consume the energy here, has tremendous potential. What I'm trying to say here is not just the energy, but it's the energy-using industries that has tremendous potential in Nepal. With the recent policy of India, which has opened up that third countries' export of power can be done through India, gives Nepal more opportunity to export power to countries like Bangladesh. So there are a lot of projects in what's been handed out to you, and some of these are mega projects, but I know the private sector of Nepal is keenly looking at getting more investment in energy, because that is our backbone for future economy in many, many ways. The government of Nepal also recognizes that without industrial infrastructure, it's going to be difficult to move forward. From that point of view, we've got about 30 million people in Nepal, ranks 49th. The population is bigger than Australia or Netherlands. That's a market I'm looking at, all right? Imports of goods and services in Nepal increased to 7.71 billion, which was in 2015, to about 11.61 billion in 2017. So which means there's tremendous import substitution industries that we can have in Nepal. That's a huge market. This is growing at a phenomenal rate. And therefore, investment in some of these areas have tremendous potential. Nepal has, if you look at the population in Nepal, below the age of 30, we're almost about 51%. That's a huge market, and that's a huge productive market. That's a huge future market, and therefore, investment in manufacturing sector is another reason that Nepal has the potential for. Investments, including foreign and private, is welcome in Nepal. If I were to open a company in Thailand, I need to find a partner, a Thai partner. If I wanted to open a business in Dubai, I need to find a Dubai partner, and they hold the majority. In Nepal, the policies are very simple. You want to invest, you can take in as much as you can. So therefore, I think Nepal opens this flow to tremendous ways. So some of the projects that have been set out here is the industrial district of Modipur, which is really a prime location. If somebody invests in that, it's got tremendous potential. 550 hectares of land, $80 million, industrial park in the other provinces here. And there are 3 more private sector looking at cement industries investment. So there are a lot of investment opportunities in Nepal beside what I've mentioned also. Infrastructure is critically important. You all know South Asia is the least connected region in the world. We have our problems. Nepal government understands that. For the last 10 to 15 years, our infrastructure development has been slow. And that's really mainly because of the politics of things that we've had in the past. But I think we understand that we need to work on infrastructure in a big way. Some of the projects that are taking lead is the first tunnel that is being supported by the Japanese government, a 2.5 kilometer tunnel that's happening now. There is the Gautam Buddha Airport and the Pokhara International Airport, which is under construction. We're hopeful that the Lumbini International Airport, Gautam Buddha International Airport, will be in operation by 2019 end, if not the first quarter of 2020. The Pokhara International Airport would be available by about 2021, if not 2022. So therefore, there is a lot of priority that's been given on infrastructure. The railway, supported by the Indian assistance, is already completed. Test runs have been made. So from that point of view, infrastructure, like I said, is something that's already happening, and more investment is required because the government of Nepal knows that private sector investment in infrastructure is critically important. So these are some of the projects that are there: Nijgarh, Biratnagar, Dhangari to open the east and west, the Pokhara Lumbini railways, the bus system in Nepal in the ring road, and east-west electrified railway system. So these are some of the things that Nepal government is trying to promote in this investment summit. Health education is critically important as we speak, and you all know that no countries can move without literate citizens and a good health citizen. So therefore, I think these are the fundamentals that's required for that. You know, this is amazing. From 2000 to 2016, from 2000 to 2016, the Nepalese that went abroad increased by 835%. Can you imagine the amount of, forget the number of people just going out, but the number of foreign exchange that's going out of this country, the potential that Nepal has. Japan, in Japan, the international students that go there, we rank 3rd. In Australia, the Nepalese students that go from Nepal is 10th. So can you imagine if there were good institutions in Nepal, these young Nepalese would not leave their country because they could get a lot more done here. So therefore, tremendous opportunities in education in Nepal. Medicine, medical, the same thing. I talk about wellness centers of Ayurvedic and they all have tremendous potential. So these are areas that I think one needs to look at. So there has been some projects from Dhulikil Medicity, which is $74 million, and all seven provinces are promoting to get investment into these health and education sector. So therefore, we have a system where the government is working towards, and I think it has the potential. The Technical University in Gandaki, $61 million is again something that's there on the project itself. Urban infrastructure, when Nepal had this problem, if you look at it, some of you really don't want to drive in Kathmandu during the day because the traffic is so congested, and that's because really of the overpopulation that we have and the management that's required. The government is looking at this as a very serious issue. Hitona Smart City is something that's been proposed, which is $300 million. Accordingly, Nepal International Convention, this morning, when we walked in, people didn't have enough place to sit. Therefore, if anybody goes into an investment for a Nepal International Convention Center, I assure you, you're going to make good money. All right, so there's investment opportunities up here. And then solid waste management is critically important for Nepal, and that's something we're looking at. What's the difference between 2017 and 2019 Investment Summit and this government? They've given us some deadline. Private sector wants to see that the government is serious when they present projects. What has surprised me is actually there's a timeline on these projects. There's a commitment from the government of Nepal saying they will respond to you within certain dates. There's also a requirement for the private sector to say that you are going to be going on with this. So from that point of view, time is an essence. And I think this is something that's really new for Nepal and something that I really commend the government of Nepal to saying that we will respond to you by certain times. So from that point of view, I think it's a great thing. And I think private sector, we need to be looking at this in a much more different way because the government of Nepal is serious on the investment. Let me end the slide by saying 2020 has been declared as Visit Nepal year, and the tagline is experience, lifetime experience. We want to welcome you. We want you to come and experience your lifetime experiences in Nepal, but along with that, if you bring some investment, would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidya, for your very powerful and encouraging statement. After listening to you, we all are very confident that a new Nepal is emerging, as the Vice President of World Bank mentioned in his inaugural session. A new Nepal which is ready to welcome the investors from abroad, ready to collaborate, and faster its pace so that it can meet those friends who have gone far away in the very short span of time. You are quite aware that the public sector and private sector, the government policies and the private sector's priorities are very consistent. There is no any gap or contradiction between the government policies and private sector's concerns. That is the prerequisite for a robust investment environment. So having said that, I would like to apologize for being unable to provide the opportunity for your valuable comments, queries, or inputs, but you will be able to express your suggestions in the parallel sessions which are going on very soon, which will start very soon. So having said that, I'll say a few words of my concluding remarks, then this session will be adjourned. Distinguished participants, globally, foreign direct investment accounted for 2/5 of total foreign financial flows to LDCs in 2018. This is a huge portion of money that matters to our economic development. Therefore, I assure you that our commitments to attract and facilitate foreign direct investment in the best possible business climate will stay the course for decades to come. That is, we will adopt more and more foreign investment-friendly policies in the days ahead. Perhaps I underline that regional business climate is improving both under bilateral and regional frameworks. Thus, investing in this country also opens the way for integrating into regional value chains, thereby gaining efficiency and sustainable growth of business. As a matter of fact, the scale of foreign investment to date is scanty, but the growth in FDI is impressive as it stands at 26% per annum in the last 5 years. I think this alone is a pointer that business climate in Nepal is improving steadily. In my capacity as the foreign minister of the country, I wish to share with you that concluding bilateral investment promotion and protection agreements, double taxation avoidance agreements, and participation in regional investment agreements are our top priority. We have already concluded half a dozen BIPAs, nearly a dozen DTTAs, and negotiating regional investment agreements in BIMSTEC and SAARC. I am confident that this will further ameliorate business environment in the days ahead. Furthermore, I am delighted to inform you that the large-scale connectivity projects with the neighboring countries, India and China, including BRI projects, are already underway, and accordingly, we have focused on massive infrastructure development within the country as well. Thus, I believe that the investments in these projects will be profitable, and completion of these projects further open up new business opportunities and help existing business to flourish further. Currently, we are working on country-specific FDI facilitation strategies in order to ensure matching potential foreign investors of a particular country and priority investment sectors in Nepal. We are also planning to catalyze building close relations between research and training institutions in investment sectors. I think this will facilitate win-win investment partnership between the host and source countries. Likewise, we are well poised to mobilize all our missions across the globe to facilitate foreign investment through essential services to investors. They include quick responding to inquiry and information seekers, solving problems, facilitation of first-time country visits for investment purposes, and aftercare services throughout investment cycle. At this juncture, it is pertinent to realize the indispensable role of NRIans, non-residential Nepalese, that have been a succor in almost every sphere of national life since some decades. I fondly recall the NRIan Global Knowledge Conference held last year, which provided us with inputs on how the best to utilize their knowledge, skills, capital, and experiences. I appeal NRIans to come forward more vehemently. It is true that foreign investors sometimes roll back or retract their decisions due to some uncertain local factors. But we have the greatest resources to our rescue. Nepali diaspora abroad, which is around 5 million, has their steering committee in about 80 countries. I would like to sincerely recommend all foreign investors not to flinch back, but find an NRIan partner who aids you to cut across any hurdle at local level. So I appeal both NRIans and foreign investors to come forward in partnership or separately, whichever way suits you best. I hope this summit helps you in tapping the best business opportunities in Nepal, and it will be a huge success for us and for you all equally. Do believe that we highly value your insightful and pragmatic comments and suggestions to chart out future course. Finally, I want to commit before you that we will also hold bilateral investment meetings through our embassies as and when necessary. I am confident that we will have continuous engagements in the coming days. Once again, I heartily thank you all for your active participation, keen attention, and invaluable contribution to this plenary session. My thanks goes to the both of presenters who have a very insightful presentation. Thank you very much. And now for some announcements, I would like to request Ms. Sadiksha.
Thank you so much to our session chair, our honorable chair, and our presenters for their valuable inputs and insights on the various friendly policies from the government of Nepal and the endless investment opportunities in Nepal. I think we definitely ended this this session on a positive note. So I would now like to say that the sessions come to an end and request all our distinguished guests to kindly join us for lunch. The lunch is at the swimming pool area. As you exit this hall, please take a left, and then our volunteers will also be there to guide you. I'd also like to inform that right after lunch at 1:30, we'll be beginning 2 parallel sessions. Hall A, which is this hall, will have energy generating power for economic transformation session going on, and Hall B will be the other side of this hall, where information and communication technology advancing towards digital economy. These 2 parallel sessions we will start at 1:30. So thank you so much for joining us in this session, and we'll see you at 1:30.